Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. I've just posted a video on the child protection system in relation to a report that has been released in Victoria. And I've had this other post sitting on my to-do list for quite some time in relation to child protection. Now, as I often say, there are very few responses I get in relation to anything I do around child protection, but it has been an important part of my life, and there are issues that I'm well aware of. This is a space in which I would see myself as an expert. I don't declare that I'm an expert in anything, frankly, but this is something in which I've had a great deal of experience. And so when this article came out, which was about 7 months ago, I thought this is interesting because this is the story of a woman who worked in the child protection system as a caseworker and then as a psychologist and removed lots and lots of children. Then had a child of her own, and that child, and the birth of that child, created specific issues for her, which she thought would lead to her own child being removed. So, what does all of this mean then? Well, I think it's important to understand that very few social workers and psychologists who work in the child protection space actually understand what that experience is like for parents. But this is someone, to her credit, who wrote an article in The Guardian in relation to this. And this article, I think, is important for anybody who works within the is a social worker who works within the child protection system, needs to understand. And it's been something I've been running for many, many years, that people need to understand and empathise as to what this experience is like with parents. Now, I've worked with parents who, many of them, in fact, should never have had their children removed. That there were issues, I won't dispute that, but many of those issues were resolvable. And many of these parents were good parents. They loved their kids, which is not the reason why you should retain care of your children, particularly if your behaviour is horrific and the people around you are contributing to the environment which is unhelpful for children. But certainly, the motivation to care for kids was very strong with a lot of these parents. I've worked with parents who have been told that they're not going to have their children returned to them, and some of the vision that I have around some of that is horrific. Where I can remember a case where a woman was told that children, there were a number of children, would not be returned to her, and she threw herself off the chair and sat and squealed in a corner, huddled up in a fetal position, screaming. And I still have that image in my head of this woman doing this. The trauma associated with removing a child is extreme, and not just for the children, but certainly for the parents of those kids. So I understand the reason to have to remove some children, but I also understand the need to work with parents so that they can retain their kids. And the fear that's associated with having your children removed, having them removed from you while an investigation is taking place, is horrific enough. But to be told that you're never going to have them back in your care is even more horrific. And those of you who are parents out there who are watching this video, think about what it would mean to you if someone knocked on your door and told you that you were a lousy parent and that they were going to remove your children for an investigation with the likelihood of never returning your children back into your care. What would that be like for you? It'd be a horrific experience. And here's a woman, I'll read through this article, and so here's this woman who has experienced this in a quite a unique way, I think. She starts off by saying, "I've taken babies from their mothers. After my son was born, I feared it was my turn to be punished." And I think it's interesting to look at the word that she used here, which was to be punished. "The first time I start hallucinating I am home alone with my baby. Drunk from lack of sleep, I watched as his features morph in and out of shape. I take photo after photo, trying to capture what I see. A few days later, while I'm pushing the pram outside, it happens again. I pull the hood down to hide my baby from prying eyes. I no longer know who I can trust. They say psychosis is a break from reality, and not long after my son was born, mine broke into a series of visions and delusions, and the thought that I'd already died. I am dead, and because I am dead, it won't matter if I take my own life. No one can miss what was never real. And she talks about postpartum psychosis, which studies suggest affects between 0.085 and just over 2 in every 1,000 mothers. Often begins in the first 2 weeks after birth. And I've worked with many parents who have suffered from postpartum depression, and which was undiagnosed at the time. And the social workers and psychologists involved failed to recognise it as well. For me, it was day 4 when I found the nappy rash. I'm certain that government welfare agencies will know. Somehow, they will know that I have failed already, that I am not a perfect mother, and they will come and remove him. I know this because before I became a mother, I worked with the New South Wales Department of Community Services at the Child Protection Helpline, then as a frontline caseworker, and finally as a registered psychologist. I know this because I have taken babies from their mothers. I have strapped them into car seats in government cars, driven them back to the office where we've looked for last-minute foster placements and pulled together paperwork for the Children's Court. I have assessed other mothers as part of my job. I have observed from during constant visits and made recommendations about parental responsibility. I know it is my turn to be punished. It is my turn to be judged. And the important thing about this is that here we have a woman who worked in the field, who knows what happens, who knows that the system judges, that the system does not delve into the issues that are affecting the mother or the parent at that time. They just see what they see. And the assessment is filtered through a judgment about who these people are. And most of these people that have their children removed are not upper class and middle class people. They're people from low socioeconomic backgrounds. They're people that are stuck in poverty, that have drug problems, where there's domestic violence. And I can't tell you the number of times I've met with women who have endeavoured to escape from domestic violence, but because for whatever reason they have remained, which is something that most social workers and psychologists should understand, but don't, and because they fail to understand that, they remove the child. And it's another issue around, having men removed from families, finding safe places for women to go to with their children to escape domestic violence. But no, they prefer to remove the children because for them that seems easier, and because they wish to blame the mother for what has been happening in that family. And it's interesting that this woman talks about this particular issue. She goes on later to say, "Weeks after my son is born, I lie face down on the ground when someone knocks on the door, convinced that social workers are coming to take him. Outside I run from UV rays I believe are out to get us both." So she's losing it. She's losing a sense of reality. "My limbs ache with fatigue and my skeleton feels sad. The bones holding me upright are fragile. I need help, yet I keep not... I need help, and yet I keep not asking for it. I don't ask for it because everyone around me seems to be coping with motherhood. And isn't it supposed to be the happiest time of your life? I don't ask for it because I'm worried I will never work as a psychologist again. I don't ask for it, and I don't ask for it, and I don't ask for it until I realise I've forgotten how to stay alive." And I guess when someone's in this space and people enter into that person's life and they fail to understand what's happening for this person, in particular in relation to this woman, when you fail to understand and you don't understand the struggles that this person's going through, then you're likely to make judgments of this person that are unfounded. That for some reason, as this woman eventually did, she worked through those issues. She was able to come out the other side, and she was able to become the parent that she wanted to be. But what often happens is that the intervention happens prior to all of that, obviously. And then, as a result of that and that intervention, the label associated with this woman as being a bad mother, as being psychotic, as being mentally unwell, pervade and take over her life. And this is how she becomes identified by the system. Reports are written, statements are made, social workers are judging this woman, and as a result, she will never have her child returned to her because the investigation period is short. The decisions that need to be made are quick. And as a result of all of that, that person's life and the life of the children changes forever. And we really need to do something about this to better understand. Well, it's a great article, and I'm very grateful for this woman to have been as honest as she is, because there are many people who experience this as well. I think many people within the system who are social workers and psychologists who become parents and then wonder whether their children will ever be taken from them if they have a hiccup, if they find that they have a mental well-being struggle. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know that a lot of people don't take notice of this particular issue that I think is really important. But nevertheless, I hope you had a chance to at least watch my video and comment about it below. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.